staying tough on that.
Thanks. So I absolutely agree with you on that. And it's not the council that said it. There's a commission that actually sets but that doesn't mean, even if they said it, we can say yes or no. I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you. I actually spoke to a council member today, and this council member was like, hey, did you see we're getting, I was like, this is horrible timing and I don't think we should do it. So I want you to know that, that's my position. That is absolutely my position. And I will go on record to say that, just to let you know. So I was like, you kind of beat me to it already. So, because if we're in a deficit, if we are laying off 14 filled position, I believe it's 14, but I think some of these positions they retire or they left, so we really have 7 people. Like for me, if we're going to lay off people, we shouldn't be taking a raise. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I will be publicly stating that. I wasn't going to say it today because I was like, I was going to wait till next Tuesday, but I'm like, you beat me to it. So don't post this up until Tuesday because I don't want, But if you want to, you can. But that was my position anyways. But I hear you on that. You know, we're in a deficit and we shouldn't do that. Not right now. So
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And back to some citywide budget things. There's an audit that I started reading through that thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, recommendations from previous audits and stuff, of ways to be more efficient and cut costs and all that kind of stuff there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't appear that many of those action items have been done. Mm-hmm. So if we're looking for ways, we need to look into each one of these departments, committees, commissions, all that kind of stuff.
So,
some of them, and here's just my opinion. A lot of these commissions, committees, and all that stuff, they're useless and worthless and stuff, and we should just get rid of them, in my opinion, because it is just part of a bloated, ineffective, bureaucratic span of control, and it doesn't work and stuff. It kind of looks good. Oh, we got this and this and this and this, but what do they actually accomplish for the time spent on that?
Yeah.
So, and what I'm saying is we need to look at all of those and see which ones, and those are tough decisions, but it's like, look, if they're not really doing anything, why are we wasting time on it and resources?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing that up. So I don't know if you saw the council meeting, I think it was last month, when I requested for an audit of the overtime spending for PD, and there wasn't.
I was watching that part when I came over here.
You did?
I got to finish watching that, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, but
and the police wasted a lot of our money.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask. Well, I asked for an audit of police overtime because police makes up the largest budget, and because they have this kind of fund set aside for overtime, I wanted to, audit the overtime to see if they're using it efficiently, what are they using it for? And if you watch the council meeting, you'll see that there wasn't really an appetite from my colleagues to do that. And so I did urge them, if you're not going to consider it this year, could you consider it next year? And then a few of the council members had said, well, there's a lot of audits already and we don't have capacity for that. And I said, but we're in the middle of a budget deficit and this is the largest portion of our budget. We should be auditing our largest,
the biggest piece of the,
And so there's not consensus on the council, which is why I also share this with community members like you, obviously, and a lot of our residents that it's going to be really important for folks to also, organize their funds and their families in other districts to contact their council members and say, hey, this is really important. Like if the budget really matters, because it's the operation of our city, we have to make sure we audit this. And my recommendation was like, okay, well, if some of my colleagues says that we don't have the capacity, why don't we take it out of the police budget and have the auditor has shared with me that, she can work with an outside auditor if we took the money from PD. Like even if we took out one vacancy and have it be paid by PD, they weren't willing to do that.
Guaranteed there is a gang of waste over in the PD side. And I've got to go back and watch it again and stuff. It sounded like when they were doing a breakdown of how they spend their overtime, that 60% was in administrative versus people on
That's
patrol.
what I said on the dais,
You said that, and it's like, wait a minute, so somebody's sitting at a desk pushing papers and all that kind of stuff, and those are useful. You got to do that kind of stuff. The 60% overtime versus being out on patrol versus solving crimes. To me, that sounds like you got too many people sitting behind desks and not enough people sitting out on patrol.
Yeah, I agree with you. One, that's the reason why I want our own audit, because the 60% that I came up with was because I worked with our police commissioner. We took the data and we did it ourselves. So I said, hey, if you don't trust me, you don't trust my numbers, let's audit it. Like, let's have an independent person, because maybe I'm biased, I don't know, but let's have someone come in and actually look at it. But it was actually, we just took the same data that the city staff gave us, and we just analyzed it ourselves, and it was 60% was just basically admin. So yeah, I mean, that's the fight. I mean, for the next week or so, or I would say the next month until June, that's where the conversation, that's where a lot of my energy is on right now, is diving deeper into the budget and just being prepared for those council meetings, right? So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. So, yeah. So if you have friends or residents or family in other districts, you know, encourage them to do what you're doing as well. And I really appreciate you always reaching out, emailing, you know, meeting with me. Even if you're critical, and that's important, right? Like, that's what we signed up for, and so I appreciate you being critical of us, absolutely. So
everything was peachy keen, going swell, and our roads were nice and smooth, and we didn't have empty lots for 40 years all across. If our library didn't look like somebody set off a bomb around it. The fire department over there, our little fire department, the big area off of 24th Street, you know what I'm talking about? Directly across, 40 years, all this empty space. We have all these homeless folks out here. We can't figure out how to get built some affordable, not just rent